I think the best way to think about gamification is that it is a subset of design. So you have design, and then within design you have motivational design. How do you create things that make people want to take action or sustain action over time? And then within that is gamification. So these are kind of the sets of specific tools and techniques which essentially lead to motivational design within the category of design. And then I think it's very important to take a step back and think, what is motivation? There are really two types of motivation. There's extrinsic motivation, and this is what we think about first when we think about motivation. When we think about how do you want to get someone to do something, get somebody to do something, you think, well, what kind of reward can I give them? What kind of reward or punishment, carrot or stick? So this is, I work all week for a paycheck, I jump through a hoop and get a cookie. This is extrinsic motivation. But there's another type of motivation which we all experience, which is intrinsic motivation. These are often the things that we choose to spend our free time with, the things that we often pay other people to do. For me, it's like skiing or snowboarding. I like that very much. I don't get a chance to do it very often, but I love it. A child will build a castle out of blocks only to knock it down, and rebuild it again, because it's not about the end goal, it's about the process. And the truth is, as I said, that rewards can backfire. These extrinsic motivators rather, can be very short-lived. There's a great book out there called Punished by Rewards. And in there they talk about a number of studies that they've done with adults and children. One in particular was, draw a picture of a house. And for the control group, that's all they did, that's all they told them. For the experimental group, they said, and when you're done, turn in your picture, we'll give you a lollipop. They did the same thing with adults, but they gave them cash. And they measured the reward centers, the activation in the brain. And both groups were kind of engaged in the activity. The control group, just for the pure sake of drawing a house, the reward group was a little bit more lit up. They were anticipating that reward at the end of it. Then they repeated the experiment, only this time they removed the extrinsic reward. So they ran out of lollipops, or they weren't giving out money the next time. And in the experimental group, you can see that the joy of the experience, the motivation in the experience essentially was completely removed by the removal of that extrinsic reward. Whereas in the control group, where it was never introduced in the first place, people were still kind of engaged in the activity, the second drawing of the tree, for example. So if extrinsic motivators are a little bit, you have to use them with caution, then how do we essentially get intrinsic motivators? Well, the good news is that lots of things are intrinsically motivating, right? Work is intrinsically motivating in many cases. If you have an element of discovery, if you have a sense of essentially making a difference for other people or growing something, whether it's plants or business. If you're engaged in something creative, that's actually very satisfying. If you get to work with other people that you enjoy and you together accomplish a task, this is all very, 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 very satisfying. And these same techniques are actually used in games. Many games require a tremendous amount of investment and work in order to accomplish the tasks. And frame the other goals in these contexts that have more meaning. You're not just kind of slaying orcs, but you're saving the world or saving the universe. I discovered these two PhDs in behavioral psychology about 15, 20 years ago, I guess, Scott Rigby and Richard Ryan, and they developed a framework for intrinsic motivation that they call the PENS model, the personal experience of need satisfaction. And they worked with over a couple of decades with about 700 subjects and proved out a theory that basically said that there are three intrinsic psychological needs. These are essentially just like we need air and food and water. We really have a need to feel competent, to feel good at something, to learn a new capability or skill. And it's highly satisfying when we do this, when we essentially learn something new, add to our capabilities, or achieve mastery. Likewise, autonomy. We want to feel like we have freedom and agency, like we're making meaningful choices in our lives that are consistent with our values and moving ourselves forward in the way that we choose to do so. That's extremely valuable. and extremely rewarding. And relatedness, the sense that, you know, you matter to others and they matter to you. So these three intrinsic psychological needs, when they're met, are highly predictive of long-term engagement, meaning that people will come back to that activity again and again over time. A great way to kind of summarize this simply without going through all of the math is, you know, they did lots of studies with games, actually. Excuse me. And people would experience, oh, this is the most fun game I've ever played, you know, in month one. That turned out to be utterly unpredictive of their playing that game in month 12 or doing that activity. But when your needs for autonomy, for confidence, and for relatedness are met, that was highly predictive of somebody being engaged with that same activity a lot later. So how do you drive these needs? How do you satisfy these needs, I should say? So with confidence, one way is with appropriately scaled challenges. If something is too easy, it becomes boring. And if something is too difficult, it becomes stressful. It makes you anxious. But so if you can scale the challenge in such a way that as you acquire new skills, the activity gets harder and harder, but not too hard, it can often put you in this kind of flow state that's highly rewarding. And this is very important when you're thinking about structuring a learning journey. You know, the experience that you have at the beginning of the journey is different from the experience that you have at the end. You have different challenges when you're onboarding versus when you're kind of engaged in the core of the activity versus when you kind of achieve mastery. The next thing is positive feedback. You know, we go through our lives and our work without a lot of people cheering us. You know, nobody kind of gives you a standing ovation for writing a good email. But games do this very well. And if you can deliver what I call unambiguous or juicy feedback, this is actually the words of the PhDs, not mine. You know, you have a very, very compelling kind of activity. There's a game called Peggle. I use this as an example because whenever you complete a level, it plays Beethoven's Ode to Joy, fireworks go off. It's like you've completely done something amazing, and you just want to play the next level. Angry Birds does this as well. You know, whenever you complete a level, you get 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, and you're encouraged to kind of replay that and get that 3rd star in cases. So competence, again, just to kind of refresh this, you know, are my customers, my employees, my trainees able to overcome appropriately scaled challenges as they go? You know, how do I track and show their progress? How do I reinforce their new kind of competence via unambiguous, juicy feedback? Next is autonomy. They did this experiment, this is great. They took a subway in the Swedish subway system and replaced the stairs with a piano keyboard, a working piano keyboard. This was actually done by Volkswagen. And you can see that most people took the escalator before the piano was put in there. Afterwards, 66% more people than normal chose the stairs over the escalator. So they chose to kind of essentially do work in order to experience what the piano keyboard was like. So another way to align autonomy, or to satisfy autonomy, is to align with someone's personal goals. So if you can find out what matters to people and frame what you do, or frame what you're requiring them to do in a way that supports them and their long-term goals, it's much, much more motivating. In other words, you know, there's a very big difference between you have to complete this training by a certain date and, hey, this training is going to help you in this way, and this way, and this way. You're going to become better at your job. You're going to be on track for more professional development for yourself, promotions, etc. So again, you know, with autonomy, do people understand how my product aligns with their long-term goals? Do I provide meaningful choices? Do I provide flexibility in the way that they solve things? And do I avoid forcing and manipulating them? And last, relatedness. Is again the sense that I matter to you, you matter to me. You can experience this when you have play a one-on-one sport with somebody because they're reacting to your every move. You experience this when you're cooperating with the team to solve a problem. You experience this when it's obvious that effort was applied on your behalf. You know, if you have a very exceptional customer support experience, that makes a huge difference in terms of how you feel related to the company. If you experience humor in a product, some sort of cultural reference that actually resonates with you. Somebody puts effort in on your behalf, you again feel connected with that person. There's examples, but I'm going to just kind of jump in. So again, the questions to ask: does my product or service connect with you or others, or does it make a connection with you directly? I'm sorry, does it connect you with other people, or does it make a connection with you directly? Does it give you an opportunity to share the experience with those who matter to you? And do I take time and invest craftsmanship to make you feel like you matter? And then finally, is my user experience warm, smooth, easy, playful, humorous? If you land on the website and you don't know what to do, not only does it feel like you're not competent, but you also feel like they didn't go the extra mile to make it easy for you.